Well, you could maybe set up a call tracking number.
My phone number is way better than any call tracking number I'm ever gonna have. It's my number is 473-1234.
Oh.
So people can remember it, so.
All right, my camera's on this morning, it's working. I'm actually having no technological troubles so far this morning. I can't believe it.
Except for you're currently doing the camera off your laptop instead of the one.
Oh,
So
so,
I'm definitely looking at your chin.
okay, let's see.
There
we
you go,
There we go.
beautiful.
I should know that because there's a green light when that camera is on, so do I have the right height or is my
You're
camera?
good now,
I'm good now?
yeah, you're good.
Look at that. How exciting, Monday morning. And is this the last Monday of March?
No, oh, yeah, it is, yeah, cause
Sunday's the 31st.
yeah, Sunday's the 31st.
Yeah.
It'll be.
So
April
next Monday is April 1st?
You bet.
Does that mean we should play a joke on everybody? We should tell everybody that President Trudeau is coming to Calgary,
Yeah.
or Prime Minister Trudeau, he's coming to Calgary. And he wants to buy a house here. Yeah. Coldwell Banker is gonna be his realtor. Yeah, because that would be a good time for Prime Minister Trudeau to come here right after the carbon tax is gonna go up in a week, right? We're gonna see gas prices are gonna go up, carbon tax is coming in. Perfect time for Prime Minister Trudeau to come to Calgary. Yes. Okay. Can we see my screen? Can you see my screen, Peter? Give me a nod. Okay, perfect. You can see my screen. Look at that. I can't believe it. Like I said, we're having such good success this morning, everything working.
He is jinxing it all over.
I know, I'm sure that I am jinxing it right now. Well, anyway, you know what? Just before I get going, just talking about the fact that the end of the month is almost here, which really means, the first quarter of 2024 is coming to an end. And for every one of us, what you should be doing is, maybe because it is Good Friday coming up, and just maybe, even though we're going to have time with family and everybody should take a little time off and try to spend time with family, this would be a really good opportunity to take a good look at what you've accomplished in your first quarter. And are you on track for what you were expecting to do for business? Are your systems working? Take a good look at what has been working, what hasn't been working, and where are you at? If you don't track your business, how are you ever supposed to achieve the results you're looking for? And take it from me, most real estate agents do not track their business. And even if maybe your first quarter was not what you were expecting, that's okay, because what can come out of it is maybe you can actually recognize some things that you could be doing that you haven't been doing, because that's usually what it is. I've never met anybody yet in this business, probably in almost any business, if they said to me, yeah, I'm just not getting where I thought I would be, and we have a really in-depth conversation, they'll usually admit, 99% of the time, they'll say to me this: well, Rob, I should be doing this. I should have been doing that. I know I need to be doing this. I know I need to be doing more of that. I hear that all the time. Of course, big question is, what stops us from doing the things we know we're supposed to do? That's the $1 million question, isn't it? We're gonna talk a little bit about that today. Yeah. It is ourselves, yes. But I said there's some deep-rooted things. There's things that go on inside of our head. And that's one of the reasons why we do these meetings every Monday as well, because we all need a little bit of a boost. We all need a little reminder weekly. Some of us need it daily or even hourly, to continue to do the things that we know we're supposed to do, because it's always just those little things, and it's not earth shattering. It's not it's the same stuff we hear over and over again. So, and it's not like most of us don't know what to do. We just don't do it, right? So anyway, we'll talk a little bit about that because I have a section today on Atomic Habits, and I'm absolutely loving that book, but I'm not just reading the book, I'm actually studying the book because I'm taking it very slow because there's such good stuff in that book. I want to make sure it gets implemented. Otherwise, you know, what good is knowledge if there's no action that comes with us? Because I always say, you know, if anybody ever wanted to say lose weight, what's the formula for losing weight?
Oh,
Yeah, but do you know what the formula is?
Calorie deficit.
How do you lose weight, Arnie? You gotta be committed. Yes, you have to be consistent, yes, and committed. But is it safe to say the secret is pretty simple? It's diet and exercise, okay? There isn't a person on the planet that doesn't know that. So we all have the knowledge of losing weight is diet and exercise, but most of us don't necessarily follow that a plan that actually executes that. So what I'm saying is knowledge in itself is not enough. And just reading a book and getting knowledge, great. But what good is it to have this knowledge if I don't actually do anything with it? And that's why when I talk about Atomic Habits, I'm studying it to make sure that I'm putting into practice some of the stuff in the book rather than just have this great knowledge. All right, I'm mentioning right here on the screen right now about our referral network, and I'm really excited to announce this because what's happening is what I was hoping would happen, you know, with having realtors in our brokerage in Edmonton, realtors in our brokerage in Central Alberta, of course we have Calgary, we're starting to see a lot of synergy between the working together and sending business back and forth. And so I just wanted to mention that because it's happening and I'm glad to see it. So any of you that have a client that wants to buy or sell in Central Alberta, it's very easy for you to pick an agent in our Central Alberta office. You can go on the website, you know, you can take a good look or maybe call them up and just see if they're the kind of agent that sounds like a good fit for your client, whatever. But it's so nice to keep this in-house. And, you know, I would strongly encourage referral fees back and forth. I think most agents will be happy to give a referral and take a referral for a good client, right? All right. This article caught my attention. It didn't mention Edmonton or Central Alberta, just focused on Calgary, but so I don't think it's as crazy in Edmonton or Central Alberta, although the market really is picking up dramatically in both markets of Edmonton and Central Alberta. But it says house flipping in Calgary's Red Heart real estate market has surged to the highest level of any major metropolitan area in the country, according to the new data from the Bank of Canada. And the latest stats show 6.5% of homes sold in the Calgary metropolitan area were resold within 12 months. That's the highest level since 2014. So, you know, some of these stats, when I read them, I think, yeah, I wouldn't have even thought about all these people that are buying and selling houses, but we also now, I mean, what about the tax implications of this, right? Because if you do buy and sell within 1 year, you do have to pay a capital gains tax on your taxes. That doesn't seem to be bothering people as much, though. So again, Trudeau gets more money.
But these people also get more money by that.
Yeah, because they're still making money even though they're paying taxes.
Somebody's making like more than 150,000 in 12 months.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That's how they're seeing it.
That's how you're seeing it, because if you have to give whatever 30, 40, 50% of it, you're still making money. Yeah. But anyway, when I see stats like this, I always think, well, you know, what to do with that? Do I post this? It's good posts. It's good information to know. And of course, it also, I always look and ask myself, if I'm posting something like this, am I encouraging or discouraging people from entering the market or exiting the market. Depends on how you look at it. Yeah,
Is that stat for the first quarter of this year, or is that for a 2023 stat? Do you know what period of time they're talking about here?
well, it's the last 12 months.
Just so the,
Yeah,
not
they're,
calendar though, right? Just actually the last 12.
yeah, exactly. So 6.5% of the homes sold, that's a big number. Like that's, to see that many that have changed hands that bought and sold in the last 12 months, that's a really big number. So then like I said, it begs the question, if you see something like that, is that, if you're thinking of selling, are you more encouraged to sell knowing that information? Or are you more encouraged to buy knowing that information? Depends on the person. Maybe it depends on the personality profile. Anyway, this is the percentage of home. This is the charts. When you look at Calgary versus Edmonton versus Vancouver, Montreal, and Toronto. I can't believe Toronto's down at the bottom.
It's too expensive.
But people sell it during like, most people I think do assignments out there and stuff, they keep reselling.
Well, it must be easier to do assignments there than here.
That's why they all try and do assignments here. That's why they're buying up all the things here, and then they're getting mad when it's not as easy to assign.
Yeah.
Yeah, they are getting that, because I had a guy reach out to me. I think I mentioned this at one of our meetings. So I had a guy reach out to me. He bought 2 townhouses and he wanted to do an assignment sale. And of course, the builder had all these stipulations on the contract that that they took 5%, or sorry, I can't remember if it was 1%. I can't remember the exact amount. It worked out to about $10,000 anyway, as to what it would cost to do an assignment. And but I was still surprised to find out that REX won't cover us on any assignment sales. We're on our own if we get sued.
Homes by Abby, I was there on the weekend, and they said that they don't allow assignments on any of their contracts. They write it in, and tell every single person who's building with them
Right.
that those homes are not to be assigned. You have to take possession.
Most Excel homes doesn't need either,
Yeah.
but I was just, that when they do it, they take 10% deposit and the assignment fee is 25.
$2,500 for our assignment fee. But here's the interesting thing about it. And Jeff Kahane and even having REX on there and having RECA on there, but mainly Jeff Kahane said that if the buyer that's buying it from the seller who doesn't own the property yet, this is just the seller who has a contract with the builder, it's not too much of a problem, A, if the builder allows it, but B, if the buyer's paying cash. But if the buyer's not paying cash, most likely, probably 95% of the time, the lender will not advance the money until the person they're buying it from actually is on title and actually is the owner. So it creates problems. A real challenge in terms of timing is how do you time it to fund the money when the money won't be funded, because you can't sell it without the money. So you're trying to time all this simultaneously, and that's where the problems really start. So yes, you can do an assignment, but the odds of you getting a cash buyer, what are the odds of that? Yeah, it's not overly high. Anyway, but that's I don't want to go down that rabbit hole too much, but this just kind of fits in line with what's going on. But at least everyone should understand that assignment sales are not like they are in Ontario. I don't know how they work in Ontario, but they obviously work easier. But we got a whole bunch of people that bought these places that want to sell it under assignment as opposed to taking possession. And the guy that reached out to me, by the way, he now ended up having to buy the properties. He had to find the money, and now he owns them. So,
Rob, where did you get that charge from?
yeah, Bank of Canada. This one is Robson Fletcher, CBC. Yeah, you can Google that if you want.
It'll be in the slide deck though, at the end of.
Yeah. This one came from RBC Economics, and Canadian renters are spending more than they earn. I thought that was an interesting chart, which, This is Canadian renters. This isn't specifically for our market in Alberta, but it is Canadian renters. And when you take a look at the owners are in dark and the renters are in blue, that's concerning. I mean, because I know there's, again, talking about other parts of Canada, our rents still here are manageable in Alberta. Certainly if you're in Edmonton or central Alberta, the rents are manageable. They're creeping up in Calgary, but I mean, the rents are ridiculous. I know even my stepdaughter and her boyfriend, they're renting a condo in Victoria, and I was there. It's a 2-bedroom condo, 840 square feet, and they get 1 parking stall, and that's $32.50 a month. Right. So that's a big, and when you look at the income that they have, I think they're in the neighborhood of about 150 for the two of them. So they're in that, what I would consider to be a strong middle class income for 2 incomes, and you're putting that much out in rent. But it's a terrible rut to be in, because you really can't afford to buy either. So you're kind of stuck in the rental trap, but it's also very hard to save money in that rental trap.
That's what's causing these people to move to, well, Calgary and now maybe every second.
Right.
Because with this amount of income, you can definitely own something decent, if not something grand in Calgary or in Alberta, we should say, but they can't do that over there.
Mhm.
So 3,200 if they pay rent, if they were paying the same mortgage,
That's exactly right.
because they've got the ability to do it. It's not like they're not.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
And 3,200 is a decent amount.
That's a decent amount of mortgage. Because you could actually in any market, whether you're Calgary, Central Alberta, or Edmonton, I mean, you can get a mortgage for that amount.
Yeah. And if even with the income, you can still qualify for something good. That's why people are moving. That's the biggest thing. But then when they come here, then they realize it's not the same. Like it's very different than how the entire atmosphere is.
It is. But I noticed everybody in Victoria rides their bike, and I was thinking, how nice that everybody rides a bike here. Then I realized, well, nobody can afford a car.
Yes.
This I also thought was interesting.
Rob,
Yeah.
I used that chart. I sent you that chart there that for the renters versus buyers there, the expense. I use that chart. The reason why renters pay more is because when you look at buyers, most of those buyers bought like 10 years ago, right? So if you look at the cost of the mortgage today, it's peanuts compared to what they're earning in income. And I use that chart to show potential renters that want to remain renters, and that it makes a lot of sense to buy a property.
That's really good. That's really good feedback, Sandro. Thank you for that, because that's true. I mean, if you look, just looking at that chart again to see, yeah, I mean, if you're a homeowner, you probably there's always some pain to get into a home. You got to save your money. You're draining your bank account. You're using all your resources, beg, borrowing, stealing, whatever. But over a 10-year period, it starts to level out, and you're in a better position. Yeah. So I think I'm really glad you brought that up, because that's a great way of talking about this. If you're going to use this on social media, and maybe even do a video about it to encourage people to still get into the market. Regardless, it's never not a bad time to buy real estate if you have a long-term perspective in mind. If your goal is to just eventually pay the property off, I don't care what the math is. If you can get the property eventually paid off or close to paid off for retirement, your retirement's going to be a lot more comfortable. Yeah, then this chart I was looking at too. I mean, I'm not sure what to. I mean, I show this stuff. I don't know what to make of it as to, does that help people, encourage them to enter into the market or not? But we got Calgary, Edmonton here. So in Calgary, the minimum down payment is $33,000 on average, and that takes 6.2 years. Now I don't know where they get the 6.2 years. Obviously, it depends on your income, but maybe they're basing it on middle class income. And then Edmonton, it only takes 3.9 years. So that, but look at some of these other markets, you know, like Hamilton, even in Burlington, 12 years. Vancouver, 50 years. It's going to take 50 years to get my down payment. Just to get my down payment, I'm going to be retired, but before I could retire, before I could even afford my down payment. How does that make any sense? Well, it doesn't exactly encourage anybody to move to Vancouver, that's for sure. I was just looking at some of the comments we had in our. All right. Anyway, this is but again, this is still helpful. I mean, I guess I look at this and say, when you look at Alberta, you know, we're Alberta, Saskatchewan, Manitoba, we're the three provinces that still are most affordable to be in. So it's encouraging for the people to get into the market. All right, let's shift gears here. I got something important to talk about here. I was looking at the article or the email that was sent out from REX, and some of you may have seen this, and I have something good for you that you can all use. So this was a good thing to bring up, even though I have talked about this before, but some of you may have not seen it. So here's what the article said. It's important to educate sellers about the risks associated with not disclosing relevant information about the property's condition. Now, I know what goes on out there, and most agents will say to the seller, so have you had any problems with your house? Oh, no problems at all. Okay, good. And you know, even that question about material latent defects, it's on the seller brokerage agreement. I mean, if you really think about it, how many agents really get into a deep conversation about that? They don't. And it gets kind of skipped over. Even if, and of course, if you send that document out, if you meet with a seller, for example, and you talk about all your marketing and you talk about all the wonderful things that I do as a real estate agent to help sell your house, but what we haven't had is a deep conversation about the house itself. Is there some issues with this house that have happened, and the seller maybe at the top of their mind thinks, oh no, there's no issue, but the reality is, how many times has an inspection been performed and then stuff has been found out? And then of course, some of that stuff could have been going on for quite a while. The seller either deliberately didn't disclose it or they forgot about it. So REX is managing a lawsuit right now involving failure to disclose a previous insurance claim arising from plumbing issues, and the amount claimed is well over $100,000, and this could have been avoided by transparency. So if any information is disclosed in the private remarks section of the MLS listing feature sheet, it is crucial to ensure that the buyers are aware of these remarks before waiving conditions. Because sometimes there are remarks in there, right? It's not always considered. I love this sentence. It's important to note that silence is actionable. So if you're aware of a defect or issue with the property and choose not to disclose it because the agent or the buyer on the other side never asked the question, you still may find yourself in a world of legal trouble. The same goes for any unlawful instructions that your seller gives to you. It's important to have these conversations with your sellers and disclose information and defects. So, so this is where it gets a little interesting. This is why I'm gonna have a document put up on our portal today that all of you can use. And I'm going to talk about this property disclosure statement because in Saskatchewan, they're still using them. Now, Arnie's been around longer than me. So Arnie, you probably remember the days when we had seller property disclosure statements in Alberta. Do you remember that? There used to be a time that we would get the sellers to answer a whole bunch of questions about the property, and the buyer would request that as part of the buyer's conditions. That's what would happen. So you'd have an inspection, but it would force these sellers to answer the questions and sign their name. I remember those days representing a buyer thinking this is a great document for a buyer to have all these answers to these questions and they sign their name. And along with still doing your inspection, you would never want to just take the seller's word for it 100%. But if you moved in and you found out that they lied and they signed their name, you had some recourse, which again was great for the buyer. But nothing against Lou Pesta. I do have a lot of respect for Lou. He's a predominant lawyer in town, and I have worked with him at the Calgary Real Estate Board, but he raised a lot of noise and he got a lot of attention on this where arguably correct, it brought way too much liability to the seller, way too much. And so they decided after looking at this all, he made, it wasn't Lou's decision to remove this document, but ultimately after the whole industry looked at it and analyzed the liabilities of it, we abolished that document. But one day after they abolished it, I stopped using it entirely. But then one day I woke up one morning and I thought to myself, well, why wouldn't I use this document, even though I'm not going to give it to the buyer? But wouldn't this be a good document for me to use as a seller's realtor? Because I would like to have the answers to these questions if I'm going to list a property. So I know what I'm getting myself into. And it will also create a conversation with the seller so they can now explain to me when we ask them the questions on this document. And so I've been doing that. And I'm going to encourage all of you to do that, but you cannot, I want to repeat, you cannot give this document to the buyer's realtor, or if you're representing your own buyer with your own listing, you can't give it to the buyer, but you can definitely keep it as evidence to be able to, number one, make sure that the seller is letting you know what is going on with this house, so you have it all in writing, and number two, it covers your behind that you had them answer these questions. You know what's going on with the house. And you can make a decision, because if all of a sudden they disclose on there that there is something with this house that's a problem, you can have a conversation with the seller to see what they're going to do about it. And if they're basically don't want to do anything about it, well, then you may not want to take that listing, especially if they're going to ask you to not disclose it, right? Like if they had a known material latent defect and the seller said, no, I do not want you to disclose that. If you're going to take this listing, you can't disclose that. Well, you should never take that listing. Absolutely, under no circumstances. So,
Quick question.
yeah.
Sorry. So like the claim about the plumbing insurance there. So let's say there was a plumbing claim from the insurance company, everything's fixed, all is done. And now it's like 5 or 6 years down the line with this is done. Like, is it still something that would have to be disclosed? Like, let's say it was due to policy in the house and all the policies been replaced. There is no trace of policy left, and everything's fixed.
Well, I think in this particular case, there was a plumbing issue where the insurance company paid maybe a cash out, and then they brought in maybe a handyman rather than a plumber to more or less somewhat fix it. But that was never disclosed, because there's a lot of people that do this that are selling their house. They have an insurance claim, they take the cash, and then they just put a little bit of lipstick and paint over top of the problem, and then sell their house and keep the cash. That's a real concern for any buyer. And the problem is, when I look at all of our contracts that come through our brokerage, I do see some realtors out there that on the terms ask the question, the seller is acknowledging and basically telling the buyer, we have not accepted any insurance claims and took the cash. That's an important question to be asking. But a lot of agents don't ask that question because they think that should be disclosed.
Now that I even think of it, because I've had the issue, and when the insurance company didn't want to fix the root of the issue, they wanted us to get a plumber to fix where the leaking started. And then they fixed all the cosmetic part of it, but switching out all the quality in the house, we chose to do it ourselves. Now it's something the insurance company offers.
Right.
We paid extra
Mhm.
$5,000 to do that.
Yeah, you paid extra to remove the poly B piping, but And again, I mean, and even when it comes to poly B piping, unless it's actually leaking, it's not really considered a material latent defect.
Yeah.
But like I said, if it came down to an insurance claim and you took the cash, so maybe, for example, even going back to the poly B, let's just say there was a poly B issue and it was came and inspected, and maybe it was highly recommended that all the poly B should be repaired in the house. But the seller took the insurance claim. Maybe there was a payout for getting the floor done, the drywall, and they took the cash and then maybe they fixed it themselves, made it look good, but they only fixed the poly B problem where that poly B issue was, didn't address the rest of it, which was supposed to be done. You can see how easily you can go down the rabbit hole. Yeah, and this is why move over here. So when I kept these questions, like I said, and I'm gonna put these up on our website today for our portal that you can all use. And I would encourage all of you to have them fill these questions out, especially on an older property, So I won't go through every question. You can all read them yourself, but I mean, does the property comply with current government and municipal guidelines or constitute a lawful non-conforming building? To the best of your knowledge, are the exterior walls above grade insulated? Is the ceiling insulated? Goes on all the way down here. Has the wood stove or fireplace insert been inspected and approved by local authorities? If it has or hasn't. Did you have an inspection report done? I think it asked the question on insurance on here. I think one of the questions, are you aware of any additions or alterations made without a required permit? I mean, these are all the questions. There's 36 questions here. And so, these are all fantastic questions. And you've got a yes, you have a no, you have an I don't know, and you have a not applicable. So every one of us in taking a listing would like to have this kind of information, would we not? Yeah.
Rob?
Yeah.
I just want to say that to the group, whoever's on this meeting, right when COVID hit, you because I've been with you a really long time, you offered this form a long time ago, and I thought, who's going to bother to do that? And then I got the lawsuit for lack of disclosure of squirrels against my sellers. And thankfully I was exempted from that due to my note taking. But from that day, which is when was the pandemic? 2019 or 2020? I don't even remember anymore.
2020.
I have used this form for every single listing. I also say to them exactly what you have shared. This is not to be shared with the buyer. This is liability for protection against myself and for disclosure for you. On top of that, I still fill out the defect disclosure form to say that there's no material latent defects. I will not go to anyone who will not fill this form out. This form is so valuable, and it took me a long time to see it. And anyone who's on the panel, if you do not do this, you are missing out.
Thank you for that, Anne Marie. Yes, and I remember the squirrel incident where you sold that property and they had a squirrel problem and it wasn't disclosed by the seller. And it turned into a pretty big deal. And again, how would have Anne Marie known about these squirrels?
No, it wasn't disclosed to the seller. There was a major squirrel problem. Oh.
Yeah. Squirrels that had got into the vents and whatnot. Yeah, they got into the HVAC system. It was a horrific thing. Yeah.
And that lawsuit only got settled in September of last year. So not even 4 months ago. And the lawsuit started in 2020.
Yeah. Yeah.
So note to self, this form is incredibly valuable.
Yeah, that's a great story, and I appreciate that you're chiming in on that. Is it with this to me, it absolutely will save you from a potential lawsuit as well. But I've been amazed, like when I've used this form, it's absolutely hilarious when you say to the seller, have you had any problems with your house? No, no, it's been great. We've been here for 15 years, no problem at all. Then you pull out this form, it's immediately incredible how they remember some of the problems they've had with the house, right? 5 minutes ago, no problems at all. 15 years of living here, absolutely rainbows and butterflies. And then you pull this form out and suddenly they recall there was this and there was that. And okay, and what did you do about it? Well, I had my Uncle Bob come over, who's a handyman.
And I also referenced the US and all the lawsuits there. And it's just protecting themselves, but you are 100% right, Rob, when you start asking more detailed questions, it's surprising on how much more information you get. And I think you actually establish a lot more credibility in the process. Unless they're trying to be deceptive, they won't hire you. But other than that, they'll hire you just because of this form.
Yeah, that's another good point. They hire you because of the form. You can see that you're on the ball. You're paying attention. Vivian had a comment, said she had a neighbor who did this. He sold many years ago after a huge leak in his engineered wood basement, new drywall, new flooring, sold privately, and laughed about how much he saved by not using a realtor. He sold in January and was sued as soon as the ground thawed and lost everything. Yeah. So yeah, because actually I'm glad that Vivian brought that up too, because I even had a client one time. I showed him this form, and I remember he had said to me in front of his wife, he says, "You see, honey, maybe we shouldn't hire a realtor, because then we don't have to do all this stuff. We don't have to like fill these things out and disclose all this stuff." Like, there are people out there who literally believe if I don't hire a realtor, I don't have to disclose all this stuff. Like, they think in their mind hiring a realtor is a negative because, yeah, you're forcing me to disclose all this stuff. And I had to tell them, look, don't take my word for it. Call a lawyer or do your own homework. You are 100% liable for your house. It has nothing to do with a real estate agent, right? But I just couldn't believe there were people out there that think that, So,
Rob, I do have a crazy question. So in this market where you're getting unconditional offers and, and you're losing out because you put a home inspection in, is there something from a legal standpoint that Human's office or something can give us that we can write in the terms? Something about disclosure or something, like that sort of, I don't know, like if it's unconditional, something that protects the buyers due to lack of disclosure from a seller? Like, is there something we can write in the contract?
you can write in anything you want in the contract. You could write up a lot of terms, because it will be a term. If you're going with no conditions, it's a term. So it's kind of an acknowledgement of both parties acknowledging what's there, with maybe a penalty for something that's not done if you're asking the seller to do it. So you could say things like the seller acknowledges that they have not accepted any insurance claims, and took the cash. Like, you can say those kind of terms. So you can do that. Of course, it also begs the question is will that help your client get the property or hurt them? Because sometimes the seller sees these extra terms and think, well, maybe they're going to be picky. Maybe they're going to come and do a walkthrough before closing and not take possession of the property. Or make some big noise at the end. So there's that part of it in a competitive market like we're in that can be difficult, but you can absolutely do it. I mean, you can put whatever in the contract you want to. That being said, I want to emphasize this again. And this is where, again, there's both sellers, buyers, and realtors that can be confused by this. When a buyer makes an offer with no inspection condition, they're immediately, most sellers think that they're selling their house as is, where is. That's what they think. That the buyer had an opportunity to do an inspection. They're the ones saying, I don't need an inspection. They're the ones that are saying, hey, I'll take all the risks associated with buying this house. So the sellers, a lot of them believe that there's no liability to them whatsoever. Not true. It's absolutely not true. So you are still, if you're representing the seller, you're required to disclose material latent defects. Every buyer is required to know this. But I just know in a market like we're in a seller's market, is that a lot of these sellers are not getting educated. And of course, adding kind of an insult to injury is that when the listing inventory is down, every one of us right now would love to get our hands on a listing today, right? We all want these listings because they're gold right now, they sell. And if these people are interviewing 3 realtors and 1 realtor is bringing up stuff about being sued, you can see that could actually help you or might even hurt you in some cases. Some sellers might think, well, the other 2 agents I talked to, they didn't talk about any of these potential lawsuits and filling out these forms about disclosing and asking me to do all these questions, and they have this perception of, well, I don't want to take on all of this liability. These other agents aren't bringing it up. Obviously, this is not a concern for them, so it shouldn't be a concern for me. That's a position that some of these sellers could take. And on the flip side, you might also get one that says, well, yeah, I can't believe the other 2 agents didn't bring this up. This is actually, I need to know this. I don't want to be in a lawsuit when this is all over with. So you can see how this can work for you or against you. And you can see why there are agents that maybe would not bring this stuff up and they just want to get the listing and make it look like it's just going to be fine. Don't worry, I'll take care of it. It's just a hot market. And the whole conversation that they have with the seller is strictly on how am I going to get you the most money for this property? How will my marketing kick in? How my negotiation kick in? But not a lot of conversation on how do I protect you from a lawsuit if one was to ever come. And we all know we can protect the sellers by doing these and having these conversations. So that's why it's very important that I think all of us, in our listing presentations, that we really educate these sellers to understand you are at risk for a lawsuit if you sell your property in the province of Alberta. That's simple. Now, the other thing that they mentioned, follow up in writing. After any discourse conversation regarding property condition, it's advisable to follow up with a confirming email. The email should outline the date, the time, and the details of the disclosure conversation, as well as any instructions that were given. This documentation serves as evidence of the disclosure and ensures clarity for all parties involved. And believe me, the few times that I've had to go to court, I know in one instant when I went to court, we went to a session. They used to call it discoveries. I think they call it question period now or something. But it's very interesting. Before you go to court, you actually sit in a room and you've got the plaintiff's lawyer there. And then, of course, the REX lawyer is there with you. But the plaintiff's lawyer is going to throw question after question after question. And if you don't have evidence, they will try to discredit you. And because, if it's something that was just verbal, chances are your client, who may be the one that's suing you, is your previous client that you had such a good relationship with is now suing you. That same client is claiming you didn't say this. You're saying, I told you we should do it this way, or I gave you this advice. Your client is saying, no, you didn't. And that lawyer for the plaintiff is saying, well, where's your evidence of this so-called conversation that you had? And you might say, well, I documented in my notebook. Oh, you did. Let's see your notebook. And they dissect dates and times. And I know even the situation that I was in, I looked at that notebook and I questioned is like, did that really happen at the time that you were giving this advice, or were these filled in maybe after you were notified that you were going to court? So having an email, it's documents. When you send an email, receive an email, it's time stamped, it's date stamped, or if you do put notes in, you can put notes in Next One, or if you're using a CRM, you can put notes in your CRM. That all timestamps your note period for if you have conversations with your seller. But on things that are really important that could potentially lead to a lawsuit, every one of us should have an email sent out to our client. And even if they didn't respond, you could document and have the evidence of that email to say, I did send this email, it was received, and this is what I suggested that we do, and this is the advice I gave them. That bodes really well for you if you ever have to get into a lawsuit. Okay. All right. So that'll be up there today. And Morgan, don't let me forget to do that. All right, what time is it? 10:15. Good. We're actually on schedule today. Can you believe it? Yeah, I'm never on schedule. All right, we're shifting gears from the legal corner over to this. What is the number one thing most homeowners want? Well, that's an interesting loaded question, isn't it? So most agents do think that it's all about commissions. And for those of you that have been doing this for a while, you would know that it's not all about commissions. But there was a very interesting stat that I saw quite a few years ago that I think is relatively relevant here. And the stat was this: 80% of people globally, like absolutely globally, no matter what their culture, no matter what country they live in, 80% of the people are looking for value when they purchase product or when they sell a product. Value, perceived value, we'll say, right? Fair market value, that's another way of describing it. 15% of the people in the entire global market, they couldn't see value if you knocked them over with it, okay? It wouldn't matter, if you were showing them a Rolls Royce and trying to sell it for maybe a BMW price. They still couldn't see the value of the Rolls Royce. Like they just can't do it. And, but it's only 15% of the people. And then 5% of the population, they're willing to pay above market value for anything because they just have this perception that if I pay more, I get more. It doesn't matter what it is. If that bicycle over there's two bicycles that look the same, but this one's $1,000 more, it must be better. So I'll give $1,000 more for that. That's kind of the mindset. It's only 5% of the people like that. So knowing that, I've always, when I've got into situations where I meet someone, I look for, their personality profile, and I look for supporting evidence to see, do these people, are they in that category of the 80% where they just want value? Or are they truly in that 15%? Now, believe me when I tell you this, I have met people in that 15%, and they're tough. Like there is absolutely no way in hell you will ever get them to pay full commissions or full price on anything. They just have an absolute mindset. It doesn't matter what it is, doesn't matter how good the product is. Their blinders are on, and they have to get a discount. They just cannot accept value, period. And so you will come across those people, but remember, it's only 15%. But 80% of these people, it's not about commissions, it's about convenience. What they really want in selling their property is convenience. We hear this over and over and over again. What do realtors want to say is, I can sell your home for top dollar in the least amount of time. You hear that over and over again, because at the end of the day, what sellers really truly want is they do want to get the most money, and they do want the home to sell in a reasonable amount of time. The funny thing is, these sellers are hard to please, though. If it takes too long, I mean, I've been in buyer's market, right? Aren't you been around a while? You've been in buyer's markets where you take that listing and you still have it 3 months later, and these sellers are starting to give you a real hard time, aren't they? Starting to wonder whether you're the right agent and starting to question everything. That's when you get an email from them and they didn't like one word you put on the listing, like on pillar 9 or whatever. When you're putting in your public remarks, they start dissecting your words and looking for every little flaw that you do. And then on the flip side, look at the sellers that list their house and they sell it in one day, even with multiple offers. Then you get the question, well, did we list this thing far too low? So I think maybe we're leaving money on the table. So yes, they want convenience, they do want convenience, but they also want the absolute most amount of money. And it's not always easy to make these people happy no matter what. But if you look at,
It's the same on the buyer side, if they win in a multiple offer situation, they're like.
yeah, exactly. The buyer side is the same thing. Yeah. It's like, congratulations, you were the highest bid. And your buyer goes, did I pay too much? I'm starting to think I paid too much. Like,
What was the one next to it?
well, that's exactly saying, well, I'm the highest bid. Was I much higher? Was I just a little bit higher? Because I only want to be $500 higher. That's all. I don't want to be $50,000 higher. Because you wouldn't, if you phone your buyer and say, congratulations, you're the higher bid. The lowest bid was 50,000 less than you. So you got the house. You can see that, that probably wouldn't go over very well with your buyer, but, they'll never know what that is anyway. But anyway, convenience, look, we live in a world now, and this is, this can't be understated, all right? And you know, I think we as agents, what we, in a competitive marketplace, what we want to try to do as much as possible is show the seller that we're willing to do this, and this, and like show more. We do all these things in this process, which sometimes can come across like, oh my goodness, like there's all this stuff has to happen. Like you want me to clean up my yard? You want me to fix my fence? You want me to fix the floors? My countertop that's coming off, my old Arborite countertops, you want me to fix that as well? Like they have all these things that you might be suggesting to help bring up the value of their house. And right away the seller is thinking, well, this is not very convenient. You know, the other agent that I talked to seemed like they more or less said they can get me top dollar for my house. I don't have to do anything. So you can see that it's different lenses that people look at things through, and a lot of how we present things to people on their perception as to whether something is convenient or whether it isn't convenient. But you know, you can't ignore like these companies like Open Door, OfferPad. These are companies trying to come up with even Sweetly. I was on their website recently. Have you seen this? Sweetly, where they'll, you know, it's all part of this. We'll give you. They have it on their website, which blows me away. They're giving you the perception that you have a choice. You can list your house at the full market value, but otherwise you can take our offer, which is basically less the commissions. And so they're making it sound like it's just an easy, you know, at any time I can just take their offer. If I don't want to have to deal with people coming in and looking at my house and doing all this, or I can go to the open market and see if I can get more. But I already know how Sweetly works because they're still suggesting a lower list price. And then of course, if you get multiple offers, well, good for you. You went on the market. Hey, we got a whole bunch of money over asking price. You got fair market value anyway. But this way, it protects them. Where if the house is maybe really worth around $500,000, we're going to suggest a list price of $490 or $485, and then we just back off the commissions and we'll buy it from you. That's their business model. But again, it's all focused around convenience. That's the whole thing. All these companies exist for convenience. Skip the dishes. Uber Eats, right? Same thing. It's all about convenience. We're little by little, we're becoming the laziest society in history. Right? I know even down in Los Angeles right now, we have a couple of Coldwell Banker offices, by the way, in Beverly Hills, and they're doing this. They do have the virtual glasses, and this is already starting to happen now. You do have to have the expensive photography to go with it. This is why it's mainly just on these luxury properties. But you can go into the office, put on the virtual glasses, and take these unbelievable tours of the home, where it literally feels like you're in the home. And you could then tour, say there's 12 homes that might be in your criteria, but after touring them with the virtual glasses, maybe now there's only 3 you want to go see. So now you've just saved yourself the time of having to go and look at the other 9. You'll just go and look at the 3. This kind of technology is slowly coming. And I wouldn't be surprised if some point in the future, all real estate offices will have that too. And that may be one of the ways that people will start buying houses. We're not there yet, but it comes down to society. We look to every technology we look at is to create a convenience and make things easier and faster. So don't ever underestimate on everything that you do, your conversations with your clients, the marketing that you do. Our job is to make things faster and easier, but without getting sued. Let me just throw that in, right? Without getting sued. It's a big part of it. So you can offer them qualified buyer if there's a chance they might sell their home before going on the market. So this is something that I've mentioned this already before, but I don't think a lot of you are really taking advantage of this. But I mean, how many of you do have qualified buyers but you're not marketing those buyers? Like we were just talking with Julie about bus benches, and as good as bus benches are, and it's good that you want to get your name out there, you want to market that you are good working with sellers. But what do the sellers really want from you most? They want your buyers. That's what they want. I mean, they might like Joe because he wears a nice shirt, but and he's a nice guy and he's friendly and all that. But ultimately, I want your buyers, right? That's what I want. So we don't. If you just look at the marketing that you see out there, we don't see agents doing a very good job advertising their buyers. And to me, it just makes logical sense that even on your posts on social media, I mean, you don't have to obviously give away names or anything, but what is wrong with saying I have right at this very moment, I have a qualified buyer, nice couple. They're in the $600,000 price range. They're looking at buying in whatever community that is or whatever area you're in. And they're not a house flipper. They're not looking for to buy a house at a foreclosure price. They're willing to pay fair market value. What seller would not be attracted to that, right? We don't tend to do that in our industry. So I think this is something that we want to start doing and do it consistently. This should be a big part of your marketing. Now, ads like this too, I'm going to have Morgan chime in on this because there's ads like this that you can run. Now, we all know we have some rules we have to follow on taking photographs of properties. It is kind of the Wild West out there because there's a lot of scams and there's a lot of agents taking pictures and they're scraping pictures off listings that are on MLS and using that to try to attract buyers for business. They're even doing it with rental scams. They're taking pictures of, they're looking for vacant houses and they're taking the picture of the vacant house and then suggesting that there's a rent that goes with it. And then sending someone over to look at the house knowing it's vacant and saying, I can rent it to you. You can send me a deposit, e-transfer deposit, and we'll start a lease. So there's a lot of that stuff going on out there. So just be aware of making sure you're following the rules. But this is a good one to run because this is just a house that's being built. And as far as I know, I don't think there's any rules against us taking a picture of a house being built and using that for as a way of maybe offering some of the buyers a list of homes that are available that are brand new. And there's a lot of people out there that want to build a new construction. And some of you might think, well, why wouldn't these people just go right to the builder? Do we offer good value to a buyer in working with a builder? What's some of our value? Any suggestions here from my peanut gallery?
First one, the one that I didn't know and I learned after, our deposit can actually be protected under the Alberta New Home Warranty. And then how the builders do it, that they don't start the warranty until you get possession kind of thing, but to verify with the builders if they have it, and the general public is not going to know that.
Yes, there's conversations, Sagani mentioned conversations around warranty and deposit protection. Absolutely true. I was involved with Reed Built Homes when they went under. Does anybody remember this company, Reed Built Homes? They were around for 40 years. And so this was a real lesson to be learned with these guys because if everybody, I think, thought, well, if they're in business for 40 years, they really shouldn't have anything to worry about. No one knew that their balance sheet was terrible. They went under just before COVID, and there were a ton of people that lost their deposit, and there were a ton of people that ended up with a home that was 3/4 of the way built, with all kinds of liens put on the home because the tradespeople were not paid. It was an absolute disaster, monumental disaster, like you couldn't believe. And built all over the province of Alberta. So they were in central Alberta, they were in Edmonton, they were all over the place. And it was a monumental disaster. And because all of these buyers just went to rebuild homes and just trusted rebuilt homes. And this is what the saddest part of this whole story is. These guys were still selling houses when they knew they were going under. Yeah, they were. They were taking people's money for months and months, taking their money, knowing they were not going to make it. Because that money they were taking in, they knew they could use it to probably pay their lawyer. It was a sad situation.
I've never seen it until now. I recently did a new build and it actually stays on the builder's contract when we fill out the bills for the deposit. That the deposit is protection of their Alberta new home warranty. Never seen it.
Right. Alberta new home warranty, and I'm pretty sure I'm right on this, but if I'm wrong, I'll be the first to admit it. But I think they're the only ones that give you deposit protection.
And it's written on a builder contract.
It's written on the builder contract, yeah.
Never seen it.
So if the builder goes under, with Alberta new home warranty, if the builder goes under, you get your money back. If they're using Progressive or National, and I think there's another company now too that's out there, I can't remember the name of it offhand. But if you're using any one of those other new home warranty companies, your deposit is not protected. So the builder is holding your deposit, and if that builder is no longer in business, you're out your money. And these are just important pieces of information. I'm not suggesting that somebody not move forward with their build if they're using Progressive. I'm not saying that. What we are saying as agents, it's not our job to make decisions for our clients, right? It's our job to bring an awareness of the things, as I've been saying for many years, what can go right and what can go wrong. You just need to know that. But it's not something the average person connects the dots on. They just don't even think, well, the builder could go under. Like my house could be 3/4 of the way being built, and this builder could just not exist anymore. And like, what does that look like? The average buyer has no clue the mess that creates, because they just think they're dealing with this reputable builder. And what's sad is some of these people out there trust builders more than realtors. They do. A lot of people do. It's unbelievable. Like we're the bad guys. And yet we're highly regulated. And after being in this industry for 25 years, I would trust a realtor on average. And of course there's some bad agents out there that would lie to their own mother. But by and large, when you take a look at it, look at our industry. When you look at the amount of actual legitimate complaints that lead to a lawsuit, where it was a lawsuit where the agent deliberately lied, cheated, and stole. I'm not talking about the lawsuits where you just made a mistake without ill intent. I'm talking about the agents that are deliberately lying, cheating, and stealing. For 15,000 members in Alberta, it's a minuscule amount, because people who come into this industry, by and large, want to do the right thing. But same thing with builders. There's some builders out there. I wouldn't trust them as far as I can throw them. I mean, there's some terrible builders out there. Some real good ones that want to do the right thing, but there's also some other builders that are just not at all credible. Even a builder here in Calgary one time, I'll never forget. We took possession of the house, and you walk through, and I always laugh at this. There's like pieces of tape everywhere. Okay, there's a nick over here, there's a scratch over here. That handle is missing. The decorative rock hasn't been put in yet. The loam in the back is not put in yet. The concrete sidewalk, there was still a board had to walk on up to that's going to be poured. And yet the builder wants payment in full. We're doing our final walkthrough of a house that has all of these deficiencies. And it just makes me laugh that we're just supposed to accept this, right? So I'll never forget it. This was a house up in Tuscany back in the day. I won't forget it. It was an expensive house. It was a higher end house at the time. And, didn't know much better. We all, clients signed off on it. And of course, the builder says, yeah, we'll come back and take all these things. Well, my client was an accountant. He documented every phone call to the builder, the time, the date. There was 100 phone calls documented to find out when these people were coming back to finish this off. And they kept putting them off and putting them off and putting them off. It was literally, we took possession in the spring. It was now late August and we're still waiting for stuff. And he's walking through a mud pile through his house, can't really relax in it yet because it's not done. Could not get the builder to hit and literally take him to court. He had to sue them and then get a judgment and then hire some of his own tradespeople to come in and finish the house. And this was a builder that's well known in Calgary. So these things happen. So this is why when I talk about running ads like this, there's a lot of value that we bring.
Yeah, sorry, just to interrupt. That's why the biggest catch is these builders, they offer it as an incentive. If you buy with us, we'll give you our lawyer and we'll waive off the lawyer fee. So people look at it as, instead of paying $2,000 and only paying disbursement, which is whatever, $1,000, and they go with the builder's lawyer. But when you actually go with the builder's lawyer, there is a disclosure in there from the lawyer that if anything goes wrong, we are not holding any holdbacks for you because we're the builder's lawyer.
Yes, that's why you should never use the builder's lawyer.
Yeah, but these people, when they go straight to the builder, they don't know that.
They don't know that. So the builder says, you use our lawyer, we'll hold the money, use our lawyer. And then basically, right, if anything goes wrong,
Their lawyer, basically, it says in their disclosure, we're not here for you, we're just doing the paperwork.
that's right. They're just doing the paperwork. Their lawyer does not work for you, more or less. That's right. So they're not giving any advice. They're giving all the advice to the builder. So a couple of other things in talking about working with builders, it's, again, you're bringing up things like, you get your 45-day notice for possession, and you can get an occupancy permit and the house is not completed. So like I said, if there's seasonal deficiencies are considered okay to get an occupancy permit. If you don't have your concrete up to your house, your sidewalk is in, like I said earlier, the decorative rock, your loam in the backyard, stuff like that, all the nicks and scratches and whatnot inside the house, that's all occupancy permit. And on that contract, you're expected to pay in full when you get your 45-day notice. And if you don't pay in full, it's going to be, most of these builders are 20-22% interest for being late. You have to pay. And you're at the mercy of them coming back. Now, these are just little things that should be explained. It's typical that that's what builders do, but it's something that the average buyer should be aware of. Someone should be going through the builder's contract with the buyer, because the builder, they do go through it. I've been to some builders, and in their defense, they did go through the contract, but it's not like they were highlighting any of the negative things. It was like, you just go through it. And you know what it's like for the average person when you're going through a lengthy contract? You start out like, okay, I'm really listening. And by the time you get to the second page, you can see they're already fading, right? And they're starting like, okay. And it's like, okay, where do I sign? Let me just sign this thing. And that's how people get. They don't connect all the dots of what they're really agreeing to. And these builder contracts, they are designed to favor builders, and they should have somebody advocate for them. They don't know things like, you should get to know the people who are on your crew. The crew that's building your house is probably the crew working on some other builders as well. This is just a crew of people. It's not the actual owner of the building company that's at your house every day making sure it's done right. They're handing this off to a crew, and they're looking at the plans and they're looking to build it. I don't know how many times I've been involved in builds where we went and it's like, the window you put in there does not look like it's where it's supposed to be. And then you go back to the builder and say, oh yeah, you're right. Well, what would have happened if we didn't catch that? Like we just would have, the houses would have got built and now the window's in the wrong spot. And most of these contracts, if you don't catch it, you're kind of stuck with it. So what I'm saying here is, you as an agent can show value to people. You can run ads like this and you can help them find, there's a by the way, there's a website you can go to, which is buildincanada.ca. And you can go /community/Alberta. This has all kinds of properties that are available on new construction in the province of Alberta. I don't think everything is on that website, so don't assume that every single builder is on there. But you could run an ad that is maybe offering, you know, new homes, brand new construction, and I can get you a list of properties, and you can get that data and you can send it to them, and then you can develop a relationship with people. So I've done these ads, and I know I get a common question, like if you run a Facebook marketplace ad, Arnie's gonna laugh at this. You get a little message on your Facebook. Are these homes available? Isn't that right? Is this available? That's what you get, a whole bunch of these. Is this available? So this is right from Craig Proctor. This is the response that he taught us, and I've actually done this response and it worked. It says Craig's in a meeting right now, but he'd like to know a good phone number and time to call you back so we can get you access to all the homes that match your criteria and information on unlisted off-market properties, distressed sales, and bank foreclosure. Well, if you're running an ad on brand new construction, you would just focus on saying new construction, not foreclosures and all that. Let me know a good time and number for Craig to call you back. That's
It
how,
works.
and it works. It does. I know, I've tried it. It works. You don't just answer, yes, it's available. So you can see, like, over the years, I've run so many different ads, and I've had agents say to me, oh, that doesn't work, that doesn't work. They don't sometimes connect the dots that sometimes it's a combination of the wrong message in your ad and a combination of your poor response as to why it doesn't work. It's not that running ads doesn't work. It's a combination of having the right ad and the right response. And you have to test these things out. It's one of the reasons why I also get coaching as well, because I love getting ideas from other agents from other areas of Canada and the US that have also tried things and discovered that some of the stuff works. Because I would have never thought to answer it that way without getting some coaching. But this actually works quite well, because at the end of the day, what we really want from people is to get their phone number. So I asked Morgan to chime in a little bit on how these ads work and how she does them. Are you there, Morgan?
Yeah, I'm here. These ads, I mean, you've done a great job at going over all this. You really have to think of these as just like the goal for every single one of the ads that Craig Proctor teaches us is to get you on the phone with someone. That's the goal of it all. They don't set up these ads so that necessarily every single bit of information is given to them immediately or any of that. It's all to get you on the phone. So every ad that you run, you want to have your phone number plastered basically all over it. You want your phone ringing from these ads. And then using the hook, you have a conversation to have. So my biggest tip on running these is truly, number one, have everything lead to calling you, or most of the time how Craig Proctor does it is that they'll give a report right after. So they just get like a one-pager report, landing page. Honestly, the way they have it hooked up is as soon as you put in your information, a one-pager report of how that works gets sent to them, but the actual information doesn't get to them until you've gotten them on the phone. So the next step of these ads is always to have a really good funnel and follow-up system in place to get them on the phone with you, because it doesn't just end with that one ad. But that's pretty much the strategy is just getting on the phone with people and then using your skills on the phone to be able to get an appointment in person. So
that's it. And any of you who have run ads in the past and have a lot of people in your CRM, you know that of course there's a pile of them that are not quite ready yet. They're in the early stages of it. Most agents give up on them and they don't follow up properly. They just they try to phone or try to text a few times and then they just give up. But the reality is these people need to be completely followed up with over and over again. And I think even it was you that Julie mentioned, you just even got back into your database of old leads and found some success, did you not?
Yeah, I've been redoing all of my old leads, and I hope you out that
Yeah.
people that are talking to me again.
People are talking to you again because they came in a year ago and all of a sudden now they're ready. You know, it's I don't think we sometimes connect the dots that a lot of these people are very, very early stages of doing something. but, they ultimately, they go with who's most visible at the end. So, that's why a follow-up nurture system is absolutely paramount for all of us. We are farmers, right? We're forever planting and we are forever harvesting. Every single day you are planting, every single day you're harvesting in this business. So when you're planting, these people are 6 months to a year away before they're going to do anything. But the harvesting, obviously these people, I almost guarantee you, like if you talk to any client that you're actively working with right now, if you were to ask them, when was the first time, what was the approximate date that you first went online looking at the real estate market? And I almost guarantee you every one of them would tell you probably 6 months ago. Because it's whatever it is, look at the world we live in today. Whatever it is you want, the first thing you do is go to your phone or you go to your computer and take a look and see if what I want is available and what I want costs. When could I possibly have it? But the information is there. So we're going to do that in the very early stages of doing it. I know even when I was going to buy my electric bicycle, I remember the first time I put in an e-bike, I didn't know much about them. I thought, oh, I'm going to start learning about electric bicycles. But it was months before I ultimately bought my bike, months. And then when I was ready, I went in and bought it. It's that simple. So these ads do work if you do it right. Converting more buyers and sellers. Here's the question. So buyers starting their search online, as we just mentioned, and every seller starts as a buyer. Isn't it true that most sellers want to know where they're going before they decide to list? Yeah, they got to know where they're going. So you can't ignore these buyer inquiries because many of them are sellers as well. It's crucial that you have an omnipresence online. And I will be the first to admit, I never really, when I first even saw the word omnipresence, when it was Jessica from the listings lab that taught us this. And I know Morgan was like, Dad, you need to have an omnipresence. And I'd be like, yeah, okay. I was like, yeah. I didn't really fully grasp the magnitude of it. And, but I understand it now. I mean, I wish I would have grasped it back then, but, look, you guys have heard me say this. Everybody that's going to do business with you is going to look you up online. They're going to do it. Mark my words, they're going to do it. And some of these people that you're talking to or maybe made contact with, doesn't matter if it's a referral or not. Some of them, unfortunately, this is sad to say, but some of them might not choose you because of what they see online. You may never make it to the kitchen table because your omnipresence sucks. Harsh words, but it's true. So if you Google yourself, what comes up? Are you running video? What does your website look like? What does your Facebook page look like? What kind of posting are you putting? Like all that data is tracked now, right? It's all out there. And they look at the quality of the stuff you're putting out too. So, so if you were at a, last week was it St. Patrick's Day was a week ago. So if you were out at the bar drinking green beer and toasting with your friends and wearing inappropriate clothing, the client that may be looking to choose you might see that, right? That's the world we live in. That in itself might not get you the business, So we have to be professional in everything that we do. Online, offline, wherever we go, you need to be professional because that's the world we live in. You're judged. I mean, even companies fully admit now when they're hiring an employee, they go on your Facebook page. They look to see just what are you posting? What kind of person is this? And people just don't always connect those dots and clue into it, that they're posting some stuff that they probably shouldn't. But your omnipresence, it sends a powerful message. And I hate the fact that we're that judged, I really do, because some of you are absolutely amazing real estate agents. And but maybe your omnipresence isn't at the same level as how amazing you are as an agent. But to be successful moving forward in the years to come, your omnipresence and you yourself and how amazing you are, it needs to be at the same level. That's just how how it is. So don't
There
do.
is also a flip side to it that I'm starting to do this now.
Mhm.
Some people have come up to me and they go like, I don't wanna go up what Instagram or TikTok says, because most people that put up there is just show off. Right? So your content on there really matters, right? If there's, like you just said, like if there's just like, I don't know, like there should be valuable content. If there's just like sold, sometimes they don't, sometimes some people think it as though he's doing a lot of business, but some people also think that he's just showing off.
That's exactly right. That's why I said I'm ready to, like, if I look at one more of these posts where I've got a realtor that has their client holding the sold sign, you know, they look like a puppy at the kennel that just got picked.
Yeah, like you have to do a little bit of, because that's the world we're living in, right? But there should be to a limit, like I feel like your social media, there should be balanced.
Yeah,
Right, because I just had a client say that to me, she's like, I don't wanna go up and look you up online because I'm tired of doing that, and I've come across people from online and they've been no good.
content that's why I said it is your content. Just a post of just another house sold is not good content. Content is showcasing your level of experience, your level of knowledge, your level of expertise. It's showcasing that I'm really good at this. This is why I always preach video. Video allows you to do that. Video, you know, I know some of you still to this day hate video, but you know, people can really see your personality and you can talk about stuff on video that people like to see. You can really make a connection with someone with using video. And video now is on all platforms, right? It's on your website, your video blog, it's on your Instagram, it's on your Facebook, all of it. All right. What if you could get at least one referral a year from every client for life? What would that do for your business, your life, your cause? And do you think it's not possible? So I know in Craig Proctor, he talks a lot about your worthy cause. So he's so good at coming up with good headlines, all right? Headlines and headlines are really important even for your own database. Like if you're sending an email, you guys know this. If you want your email to get looked at, it's got to rise above the other sea of emails that your client is getting. Give me 30 seconds and we'll make a child's wish come true together. I know a lot of them, when I was down at that conference in Orlando, a lot of them are doing the worthy cause. And I didn't even realize this actually happens in Alberta. There are a lot of, because we have the Make-A-Wish Foundation. You guys have all heard of this, right? This is to send children that have, usually, unfortunately, it's some kind of a health issue that is leading to death. A lot of these children are not going to live long lives. And the Make-A-Wish Foundation sends them to places like Disney World to give them a once-in-a-lifetime trip paid for. Their families can go and they can have an unbelievable experience at Disney World. So they do, there's a lot of information in here on how to get your referral marketing newsletter more effective. And it's by promoting your unique selling proposition, which is your USP, but it's also highlighting your worthy cause. Worthy causes, I'm not saying you have to do the Make-A-Wish Foundation. It can be lots of other worthy causes. I know Coldwell Banker is very much involved in putting pets in new homes. We're involved in that. You know, I mean, there can be the Children's Hospital. I mean, it can be, I don't know, the sky is the limit on whatever your worthy cause might be. But everybody should have one and you should highlight it. And they give a certain percentage of their commission to the worthy cause. And that's a good thing because every one of us should be giving back anyway. So this is why there's some tips in here on what you can do. And I won't go through them all
I just wanted to say a couple things. Like when he presented this to us in Orlando, something really stuck out to me. And I feel like this matches the culture in our office, that the more you give, the more you're going to get back. And so if you structure your business around giving back, you're going to get a lot more back to you. It's, you know, the law of attraction And so implementing this into your business gives people more of an emotional reason to work with you. There's so many reasons behind it, but the benefit to us structuring this is that it, one, creates connection with our clients, but two, that law of attraction gets put in place that the more that you're giving, the more that you're going to get back. And they don't just do, or they just donate. They actually submit their business to the worthy cause. And what happens is every time a deal goes through, that money is sent to the worthy cause, and that charity or whatever will send a card from them to your client saying, hey, thank you for your donation. So it's a whole system in place that works together with that charity to create that credibility around it. So there is a whole system on it, and I'm sure there's going to be more training in these Monday morning meetings about having a referral program like this. But yeah, that whole giving and getting back is huge, tenfold.
I was blown away by that when I saw it, because I'm glad Morgan brought this up, and they sent back a letter to your client, and they actually had pictures of the child that they helped send to Orlando for the to go to this event of being involved in meeting Mickey Mouse and Donald Duck and all of that, and they had pictures of that, and it said, thank you for supporting this program, and here's the child that you sent. I mean, it becomes the cycle that keeps going, because then they're now referring you more business because they're so touched by this. It's like, oh my goodness, look what my realtor did. He submitted some of his commission. I got this beautiful letter, and they're sharing it to other people, and they're saying, hey, yeah, my realtor, because it starts a conversation to say, yeah, it wasn't that my realtor was just doing a worthy cause. It was actually, he or she was a very good agent, and they did a very good job for me. And then, of course, then it leads to more business, which leads to more of the worthy cause. So you can see it just becomes it is a perpetual motion of things that would happen as a result. But you got to set this up.
Yeah, he also talks about how everything we do is for a 5-star review.
Yeah, everything we do is for a 5-star review, exactly, and that just looks good everywhere. So, so this is why this worthy cause is to me, it's really important that you guys all find the right worthy cause for you and meet with them. And look at the kind of follow-up that they're willing to give. Like, will they actually send the letters to your client? And I know they will, because they're happy for these donations. These donations are really what make the whole thing work. So they're happy to support you on it.
I looked up SPCA for those who are interested in doing any animal charities. When you submit a donation to the SPCA, you can actually tell them who to send that thank you letter to. So I found that there are easy ways to communicate this with your clients without having to do all that work in the first place. So anyway, when you're looking at your worthy causes and how they accept their donations, sometimes they do have that option that thank you kit or that thank you note gets sent to your clients, and you don't have to talk to literally anyone. You just make the donation and then that gets sent out. So fun fact.
There you go. So there's a good tip of the day. All right. Let's wrap up with Atomic Habits.
Sherry asked what a typical donation is. I think that comes down to your business plan and what you feel is appropriate.
Yeah, really. Like it's a very good question to ask, Sherry, but at the same time, I wouldn't even want to shout out a number, because everybody's at a different place. There's some people that even their own financial situation right now, it's hard to even find a way to give some of your money away. But I think it has to be very personal to where you're at. But I think it's safe to say that any amount is a good amount. Bottom line, yeah. All right, your daily habits. This is what I was studying over the weekend with in this section of the book. It says each habit not only gets results, but it also teaches you something far more important, which is to trust yourself. And I've always said this. I've asked a question over the years to our agents, especially if they're, we're in maybe a tougher market or maybe things aren't going as well. And I always ask this question: what's the one thing that you can trust no matter what the market is doing, no matter how bad the market is doing, no matter how tough things are? What's the one thing you can always trust? You. No matter what is going on out there in the world, if you trust in yourself and you have systems in place, work ethic, and you're willing to do what's necessary, you can trust in that always there's a market, always. And the thing that I've always looked back on, being that I'm a hockey fan growing up in Edmonton, but I'll never forget, I was young back in the 80s when it was a terrible market. Okay, I'll never forget when I was 16 years old and my parents' neighbors and friends came over to the house for a meeting because they were all losing their houses. Interest rates went up to like 20%. Trudeau government, Dad Trudeau came in with the national energy policy and sucked all of our Alberta money away. And it was like, there was no jobs and people were losing money. But you know what was absolutely amazing? There was still a market. And if you went to a hockey game at the old Edmonton Coliseum back in the day, they were still selling out games. And I remember looking at that as a young kid going, last night we had all these people over losing their house, and all of a sudden yet the game is sold out. How is this happening? Why is this happening? Why is there a market for that and yet there are people losing their homes? And that's what at a very early age I realized, yeah, it's unfortunate. Some people are in a tough spot and they do lose their home, but no matter what happens, there's always a market. There's always a market. There were still people back in the 80s. We always hear how bad it was, but there were still people that had money. There were still the market. Houses still got sold. There were still mortgages being done. Sure, a lot less than what there was, but there was still a market. And I have always remembered that since I was a young kid, that it's up to me to find how to fit into this market. So like I said, always trust yourself. The evidence begins to change, and the story you begin to tell yourself, it's the evidence of success creates the habits. It's a very powerful statement. The evidence of success creates the habits, right? Especially if you see something start to work, you go, yeah, this is working, and that's what literally can start that habit to success. So you might have a belief that texting people, I improvised here, I wanted to relate this to real estate. You might have a belief that texting people that ghost you is a waste of time. If you had a habit daily of keeping in touch and implementing follow-up program, the evidence of success would show up, but not without first testing you. It will always test you. He talks about in this book, right? Because when you're creating a habit, there's always this moment in time where things go bad before they get better. It's like it's unbelievable how it always looks like it's not working before it starts to work. And that shows up in everything that we do in life. So decide the type of realtor you want to be. Number one, do you want to be a business owner or do you want to be a sales professional? What's the difference? Anybody know?
Well, business will want to take credibility. Business, a sales professional, you could just be like working somewhere and you're technically making money for something. And you're not putting that amount of effort because you're not growing yourself.
You're touching on the right stuff. Just to maybe drill it down a little deeper right into real estate. Because you can be, as a real estate agent, you can be a business owner, but as a real estate agent, you can also be a real estate professional. And there's no bad or wrong to either one. But a real estate professional generally, it kind of touches on what Sugandhi just said, you're working for someone else in the sense that you haven't really created systems, right? A business owner has systems. All business owners have policies and they have systems that they follow, and business comes into the pipeline all the time. A sales professional tends to not really have systems. They just tend to, you could succeed in this business by just going around and just talking to people every day. It's not really a system. You just wake up in the morning and just knock on doors, go downtown, talk to people in elevators, talk to people in restaurants. Like, you could do that. It's not really a system, but you can still find success. I've seen realtors do it. That's a real estate professional. No real systems in place. But when you have systems in place, you work at those systems all the time. So you constantly work on your business, not in it, right? Constantly. So you have marketing systems going out, you have budgets, you're running it like a business. You know exactly how much money you're spending, how much money you're bringing in, what your odds of success are on each client you have coming in. That is a complete business. Probably when I say it that way, it makes the most sense. But here's the thing. 80% of the realtors are sales professionals. They don't have a business. And it's actually why you hear about the 80-20 rule. You always hear about 20% of the realtors that do 80% of the business because they have a business. It's an actual business. And that's where they're able to, and that's why when you have a really good business that actually has systems in place, it actually grows. And here's the cool thing about it. It grows without you working anymore. But when you're just a sales professional, you're always working harder and your business fluctuates more. It's up and down. So you gotta pay attention to this. That's why we do ads. All right. We're only 5 minutes over, but that's all I got for today. So just a reminder, the office is closed Friday. It's Good Friday. And I think Janine needs a day off on Monday, but I think we still have some conveyancing to get caught up on since this merger, and we are doing that. I just want to actually forgot to mention this earlier. We did bring on Charlotte in our Red Deer office to do conveyancing as well, and excited to have her on board. And we needed another person because we were having a little hard time catching up, but now we're in a much better position for that. So we shouldn't really have too many issues now with our conveyancing moving forward. We just needed another person in place. So this was a key thing to bring Charlotte on. So I'm excited, and hopefully you'll all get to meet her because she seems like a very nice person as well. All right. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.